And we were doing a reconnaissance thing on the Ben Het. We were way behind the lines. They're coming again from the other end. And I mentioned to Donnie, whispering, I said, commo wire. I hear the artillery that they're using to bombard Ben Het. And they're going boom, boom, boom. So we make our way, join the team, and do a sit rep back to the FOB. And said, we found the artillery. 100 B-52s hit the place.
100?
And I didn't know there were that many in existence.
Holy
That ended the siege at Ben Het. I think the one that kind of stands out, but I don't know if it was the first one, was Ben Het was under siege. The communists, of course, would siege major places like the French Dien Bien Phu. That broke their back. It was like they had no more will to fight and so forth. They tried to do the same thing to the Americans. And, of course, Tet Offensive was a disaster unless you looked at the news. Then they made it out as, they attacked 200 places in Vietnam. And what they don't say is they lost every one. But I was with Donnie, and we were doing a reconnaissance thing on the Ben Het. We were way behind the lines. And our thing was to gather intelligence. And our motto that people don't mention to you is that break contact and continue mission. A lot of times people get in contact and then they want to get out. And the real motto in SOG is you break contact and then you continue mission. So you break contact, you avoid the enemy and all this stuff, and you get some distance between you, and continue the mission. With Donnie, and there were enemy everywhere. Just saturated. And they were all going toward Ben Het. The big siege was going on. And it seemed like I had been watching the siege for quite a while. And anyway, we come across a trail system. And Donnie and I went onto the trail. The other guys were security. And it looked really well traveled. And I looked on here, and there are footprints in the mud that was so new that the water was just starting to seep into the footprint. So it had to be like a minute or 2 minutes ahead.
Wow.
Yeah. And so anyway, we're hearing movements down the line, and they're coming again from the other end. And I had the camera, and I took a picture of that footprint with the water just starting to seep in there. And I just barely got off that trail before the first people started going by. But we don't fire them up because our job is intelligence, So you let them go by, your job is intelligence. And so we're continuing on. We're looking for enemy and finding this intelligence. We RON for the night, remain overnight. You use the same term, RON. We RON for the night, and as I'm in there, I can hear the communists walking all over the place. I even could hear the trucks down the highway farther away, and even tailgates going. And sometimes that's not a good sign, because it means they're unloading troops to come after you. But as we're kind of waking up and all this stuff, I had this smell that brought me back to when I was a boy mowing lawns. And it was the grass, green grass that's being mowed. And it was like, it just was so familiar to me. So I got up and we maneuvered to this trail area, and it was probably from me to you, probably 6 feet wide, 8 feet wide, maybe wider, where the people, the NVA were going by battalions toward Ben Het, trying to take them out, had mowed it down and walked through it so much. It was all the grass was broken, and that smell from grass being down and stuff. It was just strong, really strong. And I'm looking, and it's like they are saturated in this area. We're going to be in trouble pretty soon. Well, anyway, Donnie and I and the team we're maneuvering along this road. We're about to come off the road, and all of a sudden I looked down, and I saw commo wire. It was hidden quite well, but I found commo wire. And so as soon as we got safely off the trail, I mentioned to Donnie, whispering, I said, commo wire, and we went over, and sure enough, there was commo wire. And so I said, there has to be a headquarters up here somewhere. Of course, I'm just whispering, And so Donnie and I leave the team, and Donnie and I start following where the commo wire is, because we figured the whole team, we're not going to get there quietly. So Donnie and I start working our way along where that commo wire is, and it goes for quite a while. Then all of a sudden, I get to like a low area where there's like an old river or something like that. And then on the other side, I hear the artillery that they're using to bombard Ben Het. It was, I don't know, 50 artillery pieces, 105s, 155, that kind of thing. And they're going boom, boom, boom in the camouflage. But I can see the leaves blowing every time the shell comes out, And we get closer, and I start getting close. And I can see where scores of artillery pieces are left along here. This is what was bombarding Ben Het. And it is the place where all the artillery was. So anyway, we start looking for landmarks to get it really zeroed down to exactly where that would be on a map. And I saw like where that old river was, where there was kind of a cliff face. And I said, that's it on the map, and so on. And we isolated. We knew exactly where it was, So we make our way, join the team, and do a sit rep back to the FOB, and said we found the artillery. Basically, what we're saying, that is bombarding Ben Het. And they said, immediately go, and I forget what it was, the nearest LZ, and they said as fast as you can go. And so we get to this LZ where a chopper is going to pick us up. Well, at the same time, we were there, our Mike force, our strike force from FOB that's out there with a company, but they're a few miles away from us. And I was talking to a couple of the guys after the war, because what they wanted to do, they're going to bomb it. And they wanted us out of there, because it was going to be a saturation bomb. Well, anyway, they told them, because they could take a recon team out quite quickly, but they couldn't likewise do that to a company, So the order that came to them was a maneuver, and I think they said 7 clicks. Fast is south as fast as you can go. And anyway, talking to the guys afterward, they were going so fast they could hardly breathe. And about the time they got 7 clicks away, and we were off in the choppers, 100 B-52s hit the place.
100?
And I didn't know there were that many in existence, but the word came down: 100 B-52s hit the place.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And I didn't know we had that many,
Me neither.
And maybe it's hyperbole, huh? Yeah. But so anyway, we get out, get back to base, and that is the day the siege of Ben Het ended. That intelligence flying that we found, and they dropped in all the B-52s. That ended the siege at Ben Het.
Wow.
Interesting, yeah.
Wow.
You look back and say, we did something.
Yeah. And that was the first one?
I think it was.
Holy shit.
We may have had some locals, probably, close by, that we called locals. And of course, Donnie had to constantly tell me 58,000 have been killed in locals, in country. Don't get overconfident,
Wow.
Yeah.
Would you mind, what was the Mike force?
The Mike force. Well, we had companies of people that would attack targets of opportunity. They went by different names depending on Mike force, strike force. I forget what they all were. Hatchet force, I think, is what we called ours. And I was on a hatchet force for a while. It just went by different names depending on who you were attached to. Yeah.
So you were attached to them, or they were attached to you?
They were part of the FOB. So
were these MAVs? Were these SOG guys as well?
SOG guys, yeah, they're all SOG.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.